It's Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Gobble gobble. Well, today's video I'm going to show you how to make this adorable turkey headband. It's a little abstract and I like that because it's not like every other turkey headband or hat out there that you've seen. And the neat thing about this is you can take these features and put them on a hat as well. Now this is my leaf jumper hat. It's in brown and I use the same things, the curls, the eyes, the beak, and the gobble, just like the headband, and I made a hat. So you can take these features and put them on your favorite hat pattern. Now this will fit anybody. The pattern fits about a 20 to 22 inch head. Keep in mind, yarn is stretchy. But also, I'll give you instructions on how to adjust the size so you can make one for every member of your family and take a silly picture on Thanksgiving. Now you can find this pattern, the headband with all the details, on my blog, and I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. So if you're going to add your turkey details onto a hat, the perfect hat for that is my leaf jumper hat, which is what this one is. And I just made it in a brown heather type yarn. The features are exactly the same as on the headband. The only difference is I used 4 different colors of curls instead of using the variegated. To make the headband or ear warmer, you're going to need a bunch of different yarns. I'm going to be using this light beige for the band itself. And I'm going with a lighter color because when I made the dark brown one, it's a little bit hard to see the stitches on film. And so I'm going to go with a little bit lighter beige. I'm going to be using an off-white for the eyes and a black for the center of the eyes. Now again, black is difficult to see, so when I show you how to do the eye, I'm going to use a little bit lighter color for the center of it, and then I'll show you how to sew them on, of course. You're going to need yellow for the beak. You'll need a little bit of red for the little gobble on the turkey, and then I'm going to use this variegated, and you can see I don't need very much. And I'm going to be making 3 curls for the turkey. Again, you can choose whatever colors that you want for your headband. You could do it in orange or dark brown or red or green or whatever colors that you prefer. And you can also change the colors of the turkey details all around as much as you want to. You could even make the gobble or the curls different colors like I showed you on the hat. We're going to be stitching today with a 5.5 millimeter eye hook. We'll be using the same hook for the headband ear warmer and the details on the turkey. So we'll be using the same crochet hook for everything we do in today's video. You're going to need a pair of scissors, and you'll also need a needle for sewing on the details and weaving in those ends. To make the headband or ear warmer, you're going to need about 1.5 ounces of any medium weight yarn. This beige yarn I'm using today is Red Heart Super Saver. So any medium weight number 4 yarn will work, and you'll need about 1.5 ounces. We're going to begin with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 14 chains. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now I do suggest that you chain this initial chain just a little bit loose because we're going to be stitching in a long headband going back and forth, and we're going to meet those 2 ends together, and you don't want one to be puckered up and not line up. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to place 1 double crochet in the second chain from the hook. And this is a little different than how a lot of times I start with the double crochet in the 4th chain. For this pattern, we're starting in the 2nd chain. So we're going to yarn over go in the second chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through both loops, yarn over, and go through the last 2 loops. And then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in each of the chains across. Now we started in the second chain from the hook, and then we began stitching double crochets in each of the chains, and so we're going to end with 13 double crochets because we began in the second chain and stitched our first double crochet. So 1 double crochet in each of the chains across will give us 13 double crochets. There's my last chain, my last double crochet. I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and that's how row 1 should look. Just 13 double crochets. All right, let's do row 2. We chained 1 and turned. And on this row, we're going to be alternating single crochets and double crochets. We're going to go right in our first stitch and stitch a single crochet. Then we'll stitch a double crochet in our next stitch. And we'll alternate this, moving all the way across our 13 stitches. So we'll stitch a single crochet, then a double crochet, single crochet, double crochet in the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the next, single crochet, double crochet, and then we'll end with a single crochet in the last stitch, and we'll chain 1 and turn. And you'll see it makes a really fun and cool texture. We still have 13 stitches. We just alternated. We started with single, single, double, single, double, single, double, all the way across, and ended with our single crochet. We chained 1 and turned, or turn and chain 1, it's the same thing. And our first stitch here is a single crochet on this row below, and we're going to place a double crochet in the first stitch. This next stitch is a double crochet, so we're going to place a single crochet in that stitch. And so we're still going to be alternating single and double. We're just going to make sure that we put our double crochets in the single crochet and our single crochet in the double crochet. So we're still alternating single and double. We're just putting them in the opposite of what they are. So here's a double crochet, so I'm going to stitch a single. The next stitch is a single, so I'm going to stitch a double crochet. This next stitch is a double crochet, so I'm going to stitch a single crochet. The next stitch is a single crochet, so I'll stitch a double crochet. Single, double, single, and I'll end with a double crochet in that last single crochet. And chain 1. And there's row 3. We did the same thing we did in row 2, only the opposite. We put the singles in the doubles and the doubles in the singles all the way across for that fun texture. Chain 1 and turn. Now on this row and every row, the chain 1 does not count as a stitch, it's just a turning chain. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to repeat what we did on row 2. we're going to begin with the single crochet because the first stitch here is a double crochet. So we'll single crochet. There we go. The next stitch is a single, so we'll double crochet. So we're alternating single crochets and double crochets again, stitching our single crochets in our double crochets and our double crochets in our single crochets. And you're going to do alternating every other stitch. And this is going to give us a really nice and warm texture for our turkey headband or ear warmer. So I'm moving across, stitching single, double, single, double, single, double, making sure that my singles are stitched in double crochets and my double crochets are stitched in single crochets. And we'll end with a single crochet. Chain one and turn. Our first stitch is a single, so we'll put a double crochet in the single crochet, single in the double, and then we'll repeat again, moving across, stitching single, double, single, double, single, double, making sure that our single crochets are in our double crochets and our double crochets are in our single crochets. All right, a little bit of a tangle there. Okay, here's our last single and then our last double crochet, chain one and turn. And another really cool thing about this texture is this is the front, and when you turn it over it looks the same on the back because we're alternating single, double, turning and stitching our singles in our doubles and our doubles in our singles. Now you can see the way that the headband is worked. We're going to continue in rows. We're going to continue to repeat the last two rows that we did, and we're going to do this up through row 42. So we'll repeat these two rows for 37 more rows. Now, the way to adjust the size is to measure as you go with your tape measure. And 2 rows equal approximately 1 inch. And see, we have 5 rows here, so it's about 2.5 inches. All right, so 2 rows equal 1 inch. And if you want to make it for a child or a person with a bigger or smaller head, add as many rows in here as needed for your size. All right, for this pattern, you're going to need to repeat these last 2 rows for 37 more rows. I better get busy. I've stitched my additional 37 rows, and look at that texture. Isn't that beautiful? I just really love this texture for a headband. It's going to be warm and pretty at the same time. All right, so I've stitched my last row for the length that I need, and I've done 37. I've chained 1 and we're going to turn. And the last row we're going to stitch on the headband is just 1 row of double crochets. So we'll go ahead and start in that first stitch and stitch a double crochet. And we'll stitch 1 double crochet across in each of the 13 stitches. And you still should have 13 stitches. So you'll have 13 double crochets. Alrighty, now I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 just to keep it from coming out. There's my stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Now, normally with a headband, we'd go ahead and put the ends together and connect them. But it's easier with the turkey headband to do all the parts and add them and then sew it together. So I've cut myself off about 18 inches of yarn here. That way I can stitch it together when I'm done adding all the parts of the turkey. All right, now we need to do all the details so my turkey has a face. So this is what the eye of the turkey looks like. The center is black, and then I did 2 rows of white or off-white for the eye. Because the black is very hard to see on camera, I'm going to show you how to do it with this beige color, and then I'll show you how to sew the 2 eyes on the turkey. We're going to begin with a slip knot. We're going to chain 3, and then we're going to place 6 single crochets in the second chain from the hook. So you just go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. 1, 2, 3, tail yarn out of the way, 4, 5, and 6. We're going to join to that first single crochet. There we go, with a slip stitch, and we'll go ahead and cut that yarn. And that's the part we would normally do with the black. Then we'll bring in our cream color or white or whatever color you're using for your turkey eyes. And you can make your turkey eyes in beige if you want to. Alright, so what we're going to do on row 2 is we're going to place 2 single crochets in each of those 6. So we'll just go right in that first one and stitch 2. There's 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we have 12 single crochets. We're going to join to that first one with a slip stitch and chain 1. And then for the third row of the eye, we're going to place 1 single crochet in the first single crochet and 2 single crochets in the next. 1 and 2. And then we'll repeat that around. 1 single crochet in the next and 2 single crochets in the next. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and 2. And we should have 18 single crochets. We'll join to that first single crochet. We'll take our hook out and go to the next stitch and pull that loop to the back. And we're going to cut our yarn, but we're going to leave ourselves a good amount, about 12 to 18 inches, because we want to use this to sew it onto our turkey. So we'll go ahead and tie this off. And then we need to weave these ends in. One thing that might happen with the way we begin is you might have a hole. And so you'll need to take your needle and thread that beginning tail of yarn on your needle. Open this up so you can see it. And we'll just stitch around those stitches that we began with. And again, this is the back side. Close that up and weave that in. And then we'll weave in these 3 other tails of yarn as well. And that's where you get your eye. And here's the one that I did in black. Alright, and now I'm going to show you how to sew them on. So here is my headband, and what I do with the eyes is I sort of set them at an angle, and I put this right in the center of the headband because I want the eyes to be right in the center. One is up and one is kind of down. Try to get them about the same distance from the edges. And I don't measure, I just eyeball it. And the reason I do it kind of at an angle is because when I wear it, I'm going to put the curls up here and the beak down here. And so I want it to be able to be seen. And I also want my turkey to be just a little bit silly. All right, so here's my second eye. You can pin it in place if you want to. I don't. We're going to go underneath, and we're going to just kind of hold it in place. And it is going to puff up a little, and that's kind of what we want it to do. And we're going to go around these stitches. And I like to make sure I have about 18 inches of yarn on the tail here so that I have plenty to get around so that my eye's going to stay put. And remember, this is still going to be a little bit stretchy, so don't make your stitches too tightly. Don't pull them too snugly. Make sure there's a little bit of play in there, but the eye is still going to stay put. And so I go around the edge of the eye. Whoops, oops, don't want to put a snag in my turkey. I do this one time, and then with whatever yarn I have left, I go around again. And I just keep going until I run out of yarn. And you'll see it kind of puffs up a little, gives it just a little bit of a 3D look. Those eyes kind of look like Gonzo's eyes on Sesame Street. All right, so we'll go to the back and we'll just weave that in place. And I try to just go around the edges of where I stitched, going through some of the fibers of the yarn, of it being sewed on. See, I'm going through some of those fibers. I just think it helps it stay put. And then when I'm happy it's going to stay put, I'll just clip that off. All right, we're going to begin again with our slip knot. And I've chosen to use the yellow for my beak. We're going to chain 3. And then we're going to place 2 single crochets in the second chain from the hook. 1, 2. So we'll go right in there. 1 and 2. We're going to chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to place 2 single crochets in each of those 2 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we have 4 single crochets. We're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to place 2 single crochets in the first single crochet. 1, 2, and then 1 single crochet in the next 2. 1, and then 2 single crochets in the last. 1 and 2. So now we have 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to chain 1 and turn. And then we're just going to place 1 single crochet in each of those 6 single crochets. We've stitched those 6 stitches across, and we're going to turn, and we're going to single crochet evenly down the side of our beak. So we'll go right in and just stitch single crochets, and we're going to try to be careful, make it look nice and neat. Then when we get to the point, we're going to put 2 single crochets in this point. That's the point of our beak. 1 and 2, and then we're going to single crochet back up the side. 1, 2, there we go. Whoops, I want to try to get that in the side of the stitch and not the hole. There we go. And then we'll join to that first single crochet. We're going to tie off. We're going to leave ourselves a little bit of yarn because we're going to use this to sew it onto our turkey. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and tie that off. I'm going to grab my needle and I'm going to weave this end in first. And you'll notice there might be a couple of holes. And so what I do is I go on the back and when I'm weaving in, I kind of go across those to kind of gently close them up, because it will look a little better if we don't have some holes showing through. Alrighty. So here's my beak. It's all ready to go on my turkey. So I'm going to grab my turkey. And I'm going to put my beak about right there and sew it in place. So I'll thread that tail of yarn on, and I'll do the same thing I did on the eyes. I'll just go around these outside stitches, and I want my beak to kind of be crooked and close to the eyes. And when I get to the bottom, I sort of put my needle so that I can make sure that beak's going to be nice and pointed, like that. And then I'll come back around. Sometimes when you stitch around and you're wanting a pointy edge, you don't get that because of the stitching around. And I want that beak to be pointed right there. Just something that I do. You don't have to if you don't want to. Alright, I'm back up to the top here. And again, I'll just go around it until I run out of my yarn, or enough where I can weave it in without it being an issue. Alright, I'm going to go to the back and weave this in, going through fibers and stitches. So the gobble is that little curl that goes next to the turkey's beak. So we're going to use red, make our slip knot, and we're going to chain 9. Alright, we're going to place 3 single crochets in the second chain from the hook. 1, 2. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops, and we'll do that 2 times in the same stitch. And then what we're going to do in order to make it curl is we're going to repeat this in every chain. 3 single crochets in each chain. And we'll do this working all the way back down the chain. 1, 2, 3, and you can see how it's already starting to curl. And I know it's a little bit difficult to see with red yarn. We're stitching 3 single crochets in each of those chains. All right. All right, now we have our last chain, and we're just going to slip stitch in that last chain and cut our yarn. And now it's super easy to attach to our turkey. All right, so here's our turkey. You can put it on whichever side that you want. I think I'm going to put it on this side just because I want to. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up in between where the eye and the beak are located, and I'm going to pull one of those strings to the back. And then I'm going to grab the other one. And when you do this, try to go through a stitch and not a hole. It'll help it stay a little more secure. All right, so we'll go to the back. And all we're going to do is pull those strings tightly and tie a knot. Now I'll tie a knot. I'm going to look at the front. I love it. Now, if you want to tack that down, you can take one of those tails of yarn and you can look in the front, see where you want it tacked down, and kind of go through some of the stitches and then grab that stitch and tack that down, and that will hold just fine. You do not have to tack it down. It depends on how floppy it is to me, because when I'm wearing my headband, I don't like it to flop around. But of course, it's up to you. And there's our turkey gobble. The last thing we need to do are the curls so that it looks like our turkey has feathers. Now, to make those turkey curls that we're calling feathers, it's similar to how we did the gobble. We're going to make our slip knot, but we're going to chain 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Then we're going to place 3 double crochets in the 3rd chain. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the next 2 loops, yarn over, and go through the next 2 loops. And we're going to do 2 more. 1 and 2. Now we're stitching double crochets instead of single crochets. And what we're going to do is stitch 3 double crochets in each chain. And again, you can see that it's already starting to curl. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and we'll continue to do this till we reach that last chain. Don't put 3 double crochets in the last chain though. Alright, there's my 3rd double crochet, and then in the last chain we're going to chain 3 and just slip stitch in that last chain, and then we'll tie off, leaving ourselves a little bit of yarn to attach it to the headband. Alright, so that's how you make a curl, and you can make 2, 3, 4, however many curls that you want to for your turkey. Here are my 3 curls that I made for my turkey feathers. And what I do is I take all 3 of them and I decide where I want them. Alright, and then I do the same thing that I did with here. So I'm going to go up through a stitch, only I'm going to grab both strings and pull it through. And then I'll take the next one. And I want it to be nice and close. Whoops, going the wrong way there. There we go. And I'll pull the next one through. And then the last one, I'll put it on the top. Make sure I'm going through a stitch, not a hole. And if you pull it through a hole, it's not a big deal. It's just it holds better if you go through the stitch. All right, so that's where my curls will be. I'm going to turn it over. And I'm going to take them all, make sure they're all pulled snug and tight. And I'm going to grab all of them and do a knot like this. And you may have to use your crochet hook to get all those strings through. And I probably should have left a little bit longer tail on some of them. And then I'm going to give it a good hard pull. It's better to have too long of tails than too short. And I'm just pulling it like this so I make sure it's all nice and snug. And then I'm just going to clip it. All right, now if you want to tack those down the same way we did this, you certainly can. I just didn't. I like the way they look. They're fun. They're kind of variegated, and I like that. And of course, you can use any colors that you want. You can use the traditional orange, brown, red, yellow, any that you want. I like 3 on the headband, but I always put 4 on the hat. So the last thing that we need to do is to sew closed our headband. So I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to match the ends together. And so you'll see that I'm stitching with the right side out. All right. Now we've left that long tail of yarn. And we'll go through each stitch on each side and just stitch a single crochet. Making sure we go through both sides. And this is why I said don't stitch your initial chain too tightly, because you'll end up with one end puckered if you do that, and you want them to lay nicely together. So I'm just single crocheting. That stitch was a little bit loose. I'm going to tighten that up better. There we go. All right, then our last stitch here. Oops, I missed a loop. We're going to tie off and weave that in. There's my tie off. And I'm going to take my needle and weave in both these ends. But that's how we make our turkey headband. So here's our turkey headband. Super cute. I think everyone should make these and take pictures on Thanksgiving Day. It'll lighten the mood, I promise. And don't forget, you can use any hat and add these features to it for a fun turkey hat. Gobble, gobble.